Hello class, Mr. Yan here today with Chapter 8, Lesson 2. Today, my students, we're going to talk about Greek philosophers. I already said it. After a bad experience in college, I dislike it. But as any good teacher, I will do my best to teach you what you need to know and even try to make it fun. This won't be that bad because we're not going into too much details. More like the very basics of, this is who this philosopher is, and this in general is what he believed. We're not going to be arguing about the merit of, philosopher kings or oligarchies versus democracies or anything like that. So we talked about the golden age of Greece. It was roughly 500 to 350 BC. Greece was at the top of its game. As a result, there was a time for a bunch of teachers to sit around philosophizing. Philosophy means love of wisdom, and the gentleman we will discuss today did indeed love wisdom. On the more practical end, today we'll discover where some words and ideas that we still use today came from. Let's move on, shall we? Okay. Let's talk about the sophists first. There's this group of traveling teachers called the sophists. This group of philosophers, teachers, traveled from polis to polis, city-state to city-state, and taught a variety of subjects like math and science and history and things like that. They are most famous for teaching rhetoric, or the art of debate and public speech, sort of like an argumentation. Like a debate club, almost sort of thing. Almost the sport of arguing. The sophists weren't very liked among the philosophy circle, and for a number of reasons. Perhaps the most easily understood reason is that they were paid teachers, and a lot of the other philosophers thought you shouldn't be making people pay for wisdom and knowledge. Sophists also had some beliefs counter to what most Greeks believed. For example, they did not believe in an absolute right and an absolute wrong. Everything was a shade of gray for them, and they also rejected the thought that the gods played a role in the lives of mortal men. And a lot of other Greeks took exception to that when you say there's no right or wrong. They were criticized for not having values in what we might, to today, refer to as those godless heathens. They didn't take a stand. There was no right and wrong. Some people don't like that. Let's move on to the big three Greek philosophers. We're going to start with the first of them, Socrates. So Socrates was a sculptor by trade that lived in Athens. It's said that they think his father was a sculptor too, and that they were sort of your middle-class family. But teaching was his real passion. He believed in absolutes, and that truth and real knowledge was inside everyone. So unlike the sophists, he believed in absolutes. Socrates is well known for his search for the truth. To help find the truth, he invented the Socratic method, which could best be described as a method of conversation between the students and teachers that uses a series of simple questions to find answers to more complex questions. This method is still used by college professors today. You'll note college professors and not middle school teachers. Socrates asked a lot of questions of anyone, including the government, which became a problem after Athens lost to Sparta in the Peloponnesian War. Socrates was actually seen kind of as a threat by the Athenian government for asking too many questions. He was arrested and tried. He was given the choice to leave Athens or die. Socrates chose death and drank poison after giving his final speech to his friends and loved ones. The problem with Socrates is he never wrote anything down. What we know about Socrates and his beliefs was written later by students like Plato and Aristotle. So Plato was a student of Socrates and, became a teacher. He created his own school in Athens called the Academy. Plato wrote his stuff down, unlike his mentor. His most famous book is called The Republic. It's a book about how the ideal government and society would work. Plato didn't care much for democracy. He thought it was kind of like mob rule. He wrote that society should be ruled by a group of wise philosopher kings. That'd be like me getting up on a soapbox and saying this world is going downhill. You know who should run things? Teachers. Yeah, cue the eye roll, please, and get off your high horse, Plato. On to Aristotle. Aristotle was a student of Socrates as well, and it was a teacher that made his own school, except his school was called the Lyceum. He had a few more memorable contributions. He had this idea called the golden mean. This was the idea that the correct answer between two extremes is likely somewhere in the middle. The main context was that people should live moderately. Don't live in extreme poverty, don't live in extreme wealth, just have what you need. And that actually sounds pretty familiar, right? Maybe the middle way from Buddhism. So a very common philosophy there. Aristotle wrote a book about government called Politics. In his book, he argued the best governments had parts of not only a monarchy or an oligarchy and democracy as well, that all three could work together to form the ideal government. And that really had influence on future European governments, including the United States. As parts of Aristotle's thoughts in our Constitution, sort of the separation of powers idea, and no one individual should have too much power. Let's move on to history, shall we? So Herodotus was a Greek historian that wrote a book about the Persian War. He believed that the Persian War was a major event in history and should be recorded. He thought the gods played a role in the history of man, but he worked hard to write an accurate and impartial telling of the events. He's considered by many to be the father of history. That's Herodotus. When discussing Greek historians, we also have to give props to Thucydides. He wrote a history of the Peloponnesian War, which remember was the war between Athens and Sparta. He hunted down accurate information, much like a modern reporter, to create an impartial and accurate record. He would only accept eyewitness accounts, so none of this he said, she said. Thucydides was different from Herodotus in that he thought men made history and that the gods played no role in human events. And to finish up, we'll talk a little bit about science. Many Greeks just attributed unexplained events as the works of the gods, like eclipses and things like that. Scientists rejected this. They knew there was a logical explanation for these events that could be studied. One example of a Greek scientist would be Thales of Miletus. He studied and observed astronomy, all without a telescope. It's pretty hardcore. Pythagoras is a Greek most well known for the Pythagorean theorem, which I know you all learned in math class, but I'll put it down here anyways. It's to find the length of a side of a triangle. If you know side A and B, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And with the use of algebra, you can really determine what the length of that side is if you're missing one. Also of note, there was a fellow by the name of Hippocrates. That's how it says to pronounce it. Not Hippocrates, I'll tell you that. He studied and treated illnesses in a time when people thought that people were sick due to, evil spirits. So he actually studied medicine as best he could, being in the ancient world. He made a set of rules for physicians that is still used today called the Hippocratic Oath. All doctors have to take the Hippocratic Oath. Alright, this is the end where your official lesson was. I added this video down here. It's just extra. If you have some time, want to learn more about the big three Greek philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, go ahead and check out the video. It's entertaining and informative. Your assignment today is a simple written assignment. Answer this in complete sentences, please. Question is, who are the three most important Greek philosophers? Oh, hey, we know that. And what do they all have in common? So that will require you to use your little noodle. 10 points. You can do file upload, text box, or website URL for you Google Drive folk. Alright, that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Or give me general input in the class. For example, if you think your quiz question was wrong, please let me know, because I do make mistakes and I like to fix it. Particularly if you're one of those people that works way ahead. It helps out. Alright. Thank you as always for being great students. Let me know if you need anything. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.